This lawn we're able to do with just one valve because the heads put out a very small amount of water. This is almost a 6,000 square foot lawn. We've got one 1-inch valve, which is pretty incredible. We use fairly large MP rotator nozzles and then let the sprinkler system do what it does. Our whole goal is to apply water evenly, but because of jogs in the lawn shape and such, it's hard to get it exactly even. And you very frequently end up with spots that you can see. In this case, it's a fescue lawn, so it shows water stress pretty quickly by turning kind of a grayish. It turns gray before it turns brown. If you just have one or two small areas where it's turning gray, you don't want to increase the time, because then you're increasing the time on all the good areas too. What I would rather do is figure out ways of delivering a little more water to those problem areas. Today's video we're talking about troubleshooting irrigation problems, and the most common problems with irrigation, like brown spots in the lawn and overspray. A good system applies water very evenly everywhere. When you have equal application of water, you don't have brown spots, and that minimizes overspray. So you only spray where you want the water. You're not spraying all your furniture, and you're not spraying into the pool, you're not spraying your driveway. You're only spraying where you're trying to grow plants. I'm John Valentino. I'm president of John & Bob's Corporation. I have been working with lawns and irrigation systems for over 40 years now. The combination of real-life experience and training has given me a lot of knowledge about irrigation systems. So let's say we do everything we can and our old system just isn't covering right. We don't have head-to-head coverage. That means the sprinkler of one should spray to the sprinkler of another. We don't have heads spraying properly, and we've got dry spots everywhere no matter how much we increase the time, and we don't want to really increase the time. An excellent solution is to change to a head like this MP rotator, which will go on the same sprinkler, and it uses a lot less water. The problem with old systems usually that aren't working properly is because you're using too many gallons per minute. You have too many heads on it, or your nozzles are too big. And if you can cut the amount of water that you're using in half by using MP rotators, you'll see those heads pop up and spray great, and you'll completely change the way the system operates. So that is a really excellent technique. We put in our sod and we start watching very carefully. We initially overwater a little because that sod needs a lot of water. Then as we turn it down and try to get to minimum amounts of water being used, you'll see spots that are not the same vibrant green, and that usually is a sign of water stress. Usually they're a gray color. They don't go from green to brown. They usually go from green to gray to brown. So if you're watching carefully and you see green to gray to brown, it usually means water stress, not a fungal disease or not any type of other disease. What you try to do is do the right spacing on the sprinklers, but sometimes no matter how hard you try, you end up with areas where it's getting less water. And so then you need to come up with a clever way of delivering a little more water to those spots. And the MP rotator is really useful because it's easy to add heads and solve that problem without using a lot more water. With most kinds of sprinklers, they use so much water that you usually can't add 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 more heads, because then you're using too much water, and too much water is running through the pipes, and you're going to have low pressure at all the heads. So a real simple solution is we just dug up that sprinkler and found the pipe that was on, and we put another sprinkler right by it with a very small little nozzle. And MP rotators have this tremendous range of gallonages that it puts out. So we added the orange nozzle. In this case, at this pressure, it only is putting out about 0.3 to 0.4 gallons per minute, so very small amount of water, and it only sprays 5 or 6 feet, so it's spraying right in the dry spot. We put that in, and within a week, no more dry spot, no impact really, because we're hardly using any more water than we were before. The pipe was already right there, so it was very easy to add that sprinkler. So that's a technique that I like to use with MP rotators when I see areas that seem to be getting less water, we essentially add a sprinkler and then try to pick the right size nozzles to just deliver water to that spot. That doesn't work so good with systems that have heads that use a lot of water, because normally it's not good to add heads because you throw the whole system off by using a lot more water. But MP rotators use such little water that it's really a valuable technique. This catalog, which anybody can get, tells you how many gallons every one of their nozzles uses, so you can determine the impact of adding one. And so you can look in the catalog and it tells you based on the color how many feet it throws and how many gallons it uses. You can see in this spot we used spray heads instead of MP rotators. You can use them even in small areas, but it's more difficult to avoid overspray, whereas these spray heads do a nice job of thoroughly watering small spaces. So what we did here is, you can see the pattern of the sprays avoids the benches and the cushions and the stuff that we don't want to water. And in this area we put it on a separate valve, and it's drip, and it's just below my feet here. You can't see it, so it's just under the roots of the tall fescue sod, and so we're able to water without any overspray. That's one big advantage of drip. If you have anything that's sensitive to overspray, then you just use a drip system, and even if you want to apply water everywhere, which you need to on a lawn, then we used the kinds of emitters that are built into the tubing and occur every 12 inches, and we just put lots of rows in it, and they come on and essentially floods the area slowly with about 1 gallon per hour emitters. I'm going to change the subject here because I remembered what I was going to say before. The most important part of good irrigation design and installation is, let's deliver water evenly everywhere. So we're not going to mix heads, and if we decide to throw more water in a specific spot, we're going to try to do it with the same kind of sprinkler, not with a sprinkler that delivers water at a different rate. So you've watched our video. I thank you for that. If it's made you think about any questions about irrigation and how you can water better, send it to us in the comments. Hand in hand with irrigation is healthy soil, and healthy soil that drains well and that retains moisture well. That all begs for soil life. And so you need healthy soil with lots of beneficial microbes in it, and that's the whole focus of our product line. Some of you might want to know more about irrigation, specifically about drip irrigation. We did an interesting video about changing a spray system to a drip system on a xeriscape garden that we were creating.